All right, excited. This is gonna be, I'm so full of energy right now. I'm excited to just start laughing a little bit. I'm gonna be interviewing Bobby Sausalito, Take Naps, AKA Take Naps. He just knows how to crack you up, man. Every time I watch him, he just makes me laugh so hard. So I'm very excited to connect with him. Oh, here he is. Let's bring him in. Give him a second here.
Yo,
There he is.
what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Brother, thank you so much for joining me, man. I'm really excited for this interview. I've been watching you pretty consistently in the last few months. And I mean, just, I don't want to call you the funny guy, but but you're funny, dude. You are funny.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like I never really thought I was all that funny, like objectively, outwardly. I thought I was funny in social situations, like walking down the street, like, look at that, pointing at things like observational humor. But I never thought that it would translate to all this. So I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
But it's not, you know what I've noticed though? You're not just the funny guy. You are super intelligent and very aware of a lot of things that are happening in this world. And I want to say that that's the direction that the world is going with comedy. Comedy is shifting away from this like weird fake, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like a fake type of comedy, just trying, like SNL, like, ugh. I just say
Yeah.
it's like nails on a chalkboard for me now.
Yeah.
And it's really going towards the comedy that you're doing, which is like, here's the truth. Let's laugh about it. Is it awkward?
Yeah.
Does it feel weird? Are you triggered? Good.
Yeah. No, it's actually funny. It's because like I never really thought that I would be a stand-up comedian. I always figured that I could do more for the world. Not to say that they don't, because certainly there's a great value there. But I was always like, will that really use all these things that I know? And I kind of looked at comedy as like, it's like dick and fart jokes. It's like triggering people and saying like the thing that's sensational. But what I realized is then you have people like George Carlin and Bill Hicks and people that really talk about actual real things that are kind of above that and beyond it. And so I'm glad that I'm able to kind of merge those two things together. And I've definitely looked up a lot to them. And I also used to worry, like, I don't know how you write a new joke all the time. It's like, how do you always write these new jokes? But in this current face diaper, the world is garbage landscape, it's like the jokes write themselves. So it's like the job is basically done. All I have to do is just go on I literally go on my computer in the morning and I'm like, Kamala Harris. And it's just like the most outrageous stuff I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, I love that. It's like you just have the you have the willingness and the courage to just speak it out. It's like, oh, there it is. Let me just put it out there now.
I was afraid that originally when I first started, I was afraid that I was going to get called every name in the book. I thought that they would kind of like dox my business, and I figured that the repercussions would be like, oh, here's another cisgender straight white man in America like coming out and saying X, Y, and Z, like he must be xenophobic or racist or he doesn't understand or whatever. And I was so surprised that when I actually was finally like, all right, you know what? I'll step out and I'll take shots. What am I going to do? They can't hurt me. I got it all good inside. They can't touch me. I was surprised by I've probably received 98% overwhelming positive support and feedback, way more than I would have ever thought when I started. And I try to share that message with people because it's like everybody's kind of afraid to step out because it's just like no one wants to take shots. Nobody wants to be ostracized from their social circle. What I didn't realize was that it actually created a whole plethora of new social circles that were in a lot of ways a lot more rich than the ones that I had before, which is like the crazy thing that's on the other side of risk that I try to share on here, because if more people did it, we wouldn't be in this mess.
It's like I mention this often with people that I interview. It's making space for the new. It's like you're gonna lose a lot because you're just not resonating with them anymore. But you're making space for all these new people that you do resonate with to come in and start following and start to connect with.
Yeah, I think that the general, not that I'm like a hyper intellectual or whatever, but I think generally speaking, when you hang out with people that kind of don't see the things that you see, it's almost like you're 6 feet tall and they're 4 feet tall, and it's like, yo, do you see that? Oh, you can't see it, and you're like, like it's just like there's nothing I can do sometimes to get people to see that perspective. And then when you go and talk about it, it's like, oh, come on, man, like we don't talk about that. Like let's focus on something let's focus on something neutral. Let's focus on something that's just who won the football game or whatever. And it's just like I want to get better. And even when I'm socializing with people, I want to be challenged so that I can leave the conversation with some value, with a nugget of value that I can go to the next interaction. I don't want to just be like, all right, social time to clock out and talk about who just threw a touchdown. And not to demonize sports, but it's like these things that are like inconsequential to your life and moving ahead. I love when I have a conversation with somebody where they tell me about something that they learned that day or something that they're going through, and then maybe I can help them and they help me. It's like a symbiotic relationship. Whereas like when both people have to kind of like lower to a level where nothing is talked about, it's almost like dead space. And it's like we can have fun, but it's almost just like we didn't leave with anything other than the experience. We didn't leave with an action step. We didn't leave of like, wow, look at this guy or gal's example that I can go and I can choose to implement in my life now. And I really do think that that's possible when you're with people that, how I refer to it as like that hit. They operate at a high level. They're constantly thinking like, how do I get better? They don't look at the guy that drives by in the Lamborghini and go, I must be nice, or look at this guy, or who does this person think they are? They're like, how much does that cost? What would I have to do to get that? Where does that guy live? And like, what capacity would I need to follow in order to get there? And I find sometimes when I talk about money with people, it like turns them off, and they're like, no, like, oh, you think about it as money. I'm like, all I think about it is advancement. Money is just an instrument that helps you along the way. So I'm just trying to think about getting better. And it's frustrating when I'm around people that kind of don't.
I love that. One thing that you're really good at is getting people triggered. I think that's so important, because then you're right. You become, the individual becomes complacent. They just look at the surface level stuff. And like about money, like, oh, come on, man. But that's a tool. That's a thing that people use to get to where they want to go.
Yeah.
So I think what you're doing is beautiful. You're really bringing up subjects and things that are, deeper. They're this depth to your message. And that's the key right now. The key is really digging deep and getting triggered and getting that junk to come up and reactive, so you can go, oh, whoa, why do I feel that way?
Yeah. It's interesting because the simple fact that this is emotional content that involves each person individually gives it a fire that normal comedic content doesn't have. So it's like, if I make a funny video about me observing, like, do you ever go on dating apps and she says, how tall are you? And it's like, bah, bah. It's like at the end of the conversation, there's not anything that you can extract of value from it. Whereas like with this, it's just like there's actual real value being exchanged, and someone can actually leave with something that they can think about, and that might change the way that they think about it, and they're entertained in the same process.
I love it. I kind of want to get to know you a little bit. The intention for these interviews, at least for me, is really just to connect, not just based on what we perceive the person is pushing out through their platforms, but really get to know you on a more personal level. So just tell me a little bit about your past, your journey towards where we are at now, and if you can also mention that red pill moment that really pivoted you away from this crappy matrix rat race we call this reality.
Yeah, well, I think I grew up in Connecticut, great family, two parents that are still together to this day, 40-something, I think almost 40-year anniversary they're coming up on. Older brother, 18 months older, had an ideal childhood, grew up in Connecticut, went to a great elementary school, middle school, high school, same place my entire life. I grew up in the same town in Connecticut from age 6 to age 18. So I built a lot of like loyalty. I understood the value of a relationship and being true and honest to people. And it's like you screw one person over, you see their cousin, their uncle, their brother, their friend at in the town square. So I understood the value of building real high quality relationships. And my family didn't teach me what to think. They taught me how to think. They encouraged me to do things like engage in sports, be athletic, exercise, have fun with people, go on sleepovers. And I had what you would consider to be like the ideal American childhood. childhood, like middle class family. Both parents worked, and just I had a great childhood. I went to a great high school, and I felt like I learned a lot there. Played sports, played football in high school, won the state championship. Like it was like movie style. When I was in, I went to college at the University of Connecticut. I didn't get into the main campus. I guess my grades weren't good enough. The applications went up that year. So I went to a satellite campus in Connecticut, and I realized very quickly that this school was not going to get me where I wanted to be in life. By the time I was 18, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had always built websites. Websites were kind of my thing since I was like 13 years old. I had built websites, and I finally realized there was a way that I could monetize them. So as I was in college, I was building my web development business. I did a lot of research about successful people and how they got ahead, how they won in life to a maximum scale. And I just figured, if I master something starting at age 13 to 18 years old, and I do it my whole life, like, it'll make me rich. There's no way you could tell me otherwise. And I look at something like the internet, and I'm like, this has a guaranteed trajectory to the moon till the day I die. It'll only be bigger. I guarantee it. It's not like I'm going into building horse and buggies. So it just seemed like it was a natural progression. So I was like, the internet's my thing. I love communication. I love communicating. I love interacting with people and having it be broadcast around. It was like, that was my thing. So I started a web development company when I was 18. After my first year of college, I dropped out of college to pursue the web development company full time, and basically just said the same logic. Like, I'm 20 years old. If I never work a day again for anybody else for the rest of my life, and I just focus on this business, it will work. No matter what, if I never give up, it'll have to work. So I just set out to do that. I did some odd jobs, like I caddied at the golf course. I worked at a restaurant. I took some odd jobs here and there. My most notable one being I used to work at night cleaning floors at grocery stores. I would do commercial floor cleaning with a family friend, scrape gum off the floor, like the worst job imaginable. And I did that to keep my web development business afloat. I had a really good summer when I was, I think, 22 years old, and I decided, like, I'm sick of being here. I'm working on the internet. I'm moving to Florida. I'm sick of being cold. I'm just going to pick up. I'm going to go to Florida. I don't know anyone. I've never even really been there, but I'm just going to move to Florida. I want to be warm. So in 2009, at the end of 2009, I picked up all my stuff and moved to South Florida, knowing nobody, no job, no nothing, and just brought my web development business here. And I just basically started from scratch, didn't know anybody, didn't know anything, and just made my way and reestablished myself in South Florida. And everything has been amazing ever since. As far as my red pill moment is concerned, the first time I ever took mushrooms was kind of like the moment that I understood another dimension of reality, where I realized that not everything is what it seems, and that if I can see it and it looks a certain way, is it not that way? I mean, what makes it real? What actually makes something truly real? And that was when I kind of understood that perspective is reality, and that there was something beyond what I just knew inherently here in the world. A group of friends of mine went to Philadelphia this one weekend, or I think it was Philadelphia this one weekend, and I couldn't go. And they were like, hey, there were these guys yelling in the street, and we ran into these guys, and they gave us this DVD. We didn't watch it. Let's watch it. So we sat down this one night, smoking a blunt, and we watched Loose Change, because the person that they ran into was Luke Rudkowski from We Are Change, doing some 9/11 Truth DVD handouts. And we watched Loose Change, and we were like, yo, whoa, what is going on? And we spent the entire night, probably till 7 o'clock in the morning, Googling any video loosely related to it. So we found our way to to Kymatica, to Zeitgeist, to Esoteric Agenda, to Alex Jones, and then it was like we were addicted. And it was just kind of like there's this whole other underworld of truth that we were completely unaware of. So from like 2007 to 2008, I was just like fully immersed in discovering as much as I could about the Federal Reserve banking system, about the international banking cartels that run the world, and then also on the other side of it, not focusing so specifically on they're going to kill us, they're running us, they're destroying us forever, but more esoteric agenda, where it's just like matter can be in two places at once. A thought is actually a real thing. things like quantum physics and all those other things that are like love and your thoughts and the words that you see, that you say, and the world around you kind of like adapts and molds and adjusts to the good that you put into it. So understanding how like energy worked, and then kind of fusing those two things together to have this very deep and broad understanding of life. And throughout the last 10 years, I've used that to say, I'm going to get better at exercise. I'm going to get better at business. I'm going to get better at understanding and discovering the truth. I'm going to get better at being a student of money and a student of finances, and like fortifying my fortress so that I'm indestructible. And then throughout that time frame, I just was like always absorbing knowledge. I got some frustrated one day. I was making some videos about the political sphere, and one day a video just popped, took off overnight, 60,000 views, and I just said, you know what? This has more purpose than me building websites. What if I just focused on this real time, full time, for like 4 to 5 months to see if it works? And here we are 7 months later. I don't really build websites anymore. I don't do client work, and I just full time this.
Was it when you connected those dots of watching Zeitgeist and Loose Change and all that, and then becoming aware of the quantum physics aspect and how our thoughts are physical? It's actually physical things happening, and emotions are magnetic, and you really are creating your universe. Was that when you realized, like, oh, laughter, oh, love, I get it now? And then you started to fuse and go in that direction of like this, just being that way, that expression of love and laughter?
Well, the big thing was when I first got into Jones, I was watching him every day, and I was like mad. And it was 2008, and all the jobs were in the can, and everybody was losing money. And here I was in my prime earning years. There's no jobs, no businesses are buying websites because everybody's financially destroyed. Everyone around me, there's no money moving. I can't buy a house. I'm in this time where it's like I should be thriving. I've been out of college, I've been out of high school 3-4 years. Like, this is my time to cook and like really grow. And I felt like they stole that away from me. So in 2008 and 2009, I was very like mad at the world, in the sense that I was like watching Jones, and he's like, they're coming, they're gonna kill us. And I was mad that other people didn't see what I was seeing. So I was basically like, figuratively speaking, going in guns blazing to try to save the world. And it was like, I don't like to use the word depressed, but it was like affecting my mindset, and it was leaching into other aspects of life. Because it's like, if I'm a puppet and money is controlled by some elite, then what use is there doing anything? Why don't I just sit at home and smoke L's all day and just fuck off, So I remember one time my dad said to me, he's like, you got to understand that if this is true, they've been doing this since before you were here and long after you're gone. He's like, you got to control what you can control. He's just like, you can't be mad at everything. Just figure out what you can control and fix that, and just focus on those things. And like, it was at that moment that I kind of understood, like, this was really fucking me up, and it was messing with my flow and my ability to live life. So I just like completely cut it out. And from 2009 to I think it was like 2011, I just didn't think about it at all. And generally speaking, I lived a happier life.
Sure.
And then by 2011,
ignorance is bliss. Right?
Yeah. And it was just like, I was like, what can I do? I can't do anything. Right? I don't have any money. I don't have any success. I don't have a huge network. Like, what am I going to be able to do? By 2011 and 2012, the new election comes around, and I started to realize how important the election was to all of this stuff. And I saw Ron Paul speaking up, and I'm like, Ron Paul, like, this dude is actually talking about things that make sense to me, like get out of the wars, like get rid of the Department of Education, things that make a real logical sense to me from a person that feels like they really truly understand. And I was like, Ron Paul is the man. And I didn't think that he had what it took to take it all the way, but I certainly hoped that he could. And he kind of like reinvigorated my idea of like sound money, understanding of the economy. And then after he kind of got out, and Obama, and I believe it was Obama, got back in, I just thought to myself, if I was as passionate about web development and any other thing in my life, if I could become passionate about money, if I could love money, if I could love the freedom that money gives, and I could treat it as something that I love instead of something that's bad, if I could put it on a pedestal of positivity as opposed to negativity, I would attract more of it. By being a student of it and by loving the freedom that it gives, I could acquire more. I could acquire more power. I could have the ability to have more control of my life, the way that I live it, and then ultimately gain more influence that could allow me to do more to give back to the world than I could ever do if I were just poor. So I've realized that my shift to I must love money. So then it was like, okay, how does money work? Where does it come from? I already know all that. So it was like the economy. I need to understand economics. So I bought this book by Peter Schiff, who was Ron Paul's main guy, his money guy. And it was called How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. And after 2008, it seemed like such a valuable piece of information to understand how the economy ebbs and flows. So I started just going super, super deep into the economy and money. And I started realizing that I need to take life into my own hands, and I need to start figuring out how to acquire wealth. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to analyze my business. I'm going to get my books right, get my accounting right. I'm going to get QuickBooks for my business and run it. I'm going to set money aside, and instead of letting it sit in a bank account, I'm going to know how to grow it. I'm going to buy stocks. I'm going to invest into things. I'm going to look into different financial instruments that are going to make me freer over the course of my life and consistently empower myself until I have more and more money, thus more and more control, thus more and more freedom. And that became my primary objective. And from like 2012 to 2016 was when I really got lockstep with figuring out how to generate cash. Invest cash, I got a bunch of leverage, bought a house, and really turned my life around. And then I realized if I can be financially stable and financially insulated, I can do anything. I can be free. And then it's no surprise that in 2020, when this opportunity came, my financial stability that came from the 10 plus years of building and all of that hard work, understanding all of these things, harnessing that power, when the opportunity presented itself, I was ready. And it was like, all right, shift focus, do this, purpose driven, can do great things, macro impact, this is it. And it was just like the universe was like, you're ready. And they always say, if by the time the opportunity comes, if you start to prepare, then you're too late. And it's like, I've been preparing for this my entire life. And looking back on it, it's like, it makes perfect, flawless sense. And that's why I feel like all this stuff hits. I feel like that's why it connects. And because I have that work ethic of what I understand, how I built these blocks one at a time, it's why all of these things are engaged. Because I'm like, I will never give up. And I do believe that it has macro impact. And for that reason, I can't fail.
I love that. I love your perspective because I'm building a course right now around crypto and just like the gamification of abundance. And one of the things that I teach on there is the mentality to switch from this scarcity competitive mentality to an abundant one, where you essentially you look at yourself as a transactional node or like a spigot, so that you don't hoard the money, you let it flow through you. And you actually you direct the money in the right direction, because that's the problem. People look at money and they go, it's evil. Like that's the root of all evil. And it's like, no, man, it's the people using that tool that are using it for evil. But let's say you let it flow into your life, you can then flow it into the right direction for love and for good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, absolutely.
I love that.
One of the best things in one of the most key elements of success, I feel like, is just listening to stories of how people attained it, because nobody's path is your path. I love just absorbing success stories. Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Bradley, people like that. And one thing that I heard that really hit me was, I remember Grant Cardone one time, big real estate investor here in Miami, as he was like, I hate cash. I don't want this cash. You gave me $100. He's like, I don't want this $100. And Brad Lee says a similar thing, where he's just like, as soon as I get cash, I can't wait to get rid of it. The idea is like, when the cash comes in, you get it out working and more cash comes back. More cash comes back, you get it out working, so more cash comes back. I hate seeing money in my bank account, and it burns a hole where I'm just like, if this isn't cooking, it's diminishing. And the pure fact of my understanding of economics and inflation proves that to be true beyond just your own understanding. It's like, it's literally losing 3 points. If you go to the bank and you buy a CD that yields 1%, you are objectively losing cash. And it's just like that mentality of like creating scarcity and investing in cash flow and taking any money that you get and immediately putting it to work has made all the difference in my life. And all of the things that have grown exponentially that make up the vast majority of my net worth have come as a result of me parting ways with this cash that I used to hold so dear and realizing that all of these assets that are flowing and working could do more than I could ever do going and plugging away every day, building a website hand to hand, or even just doing what I refer to as hand to hand combat of like call, sale, build, call, sale, build. It's like these hand-to-hand combat transactions. It's like you can never exponentially grow like that. You'll never make $10 million in a year working by the hour. You will only do that through investment and saving capital. And it's like if there's a guy down the road from me that has an $18 million house on the beach that costs him $200,000 a year in taxes, it's like this dude's got to be making $100 grand, $200 grand a month. If he can make $200 grand a month, that means it's feasible. That's just in my town. That's not even in Miami. That's not even in New York. That's not even in Dubai. That's not even in Shanghai. That's not even in any of these other places. So it's like the degree of wealth is like these people have the same 24 hours. Like they have to shit and they have to sleep and they have to do all the same stuff as you, and they get sick and they have friends and they have a wife and kids and all that stuff. And it's just like, yet they're able to earn gross amounts of money, and it's by being smart and being strategic, saving capital and investing it, not by grinding for it.
Yeah, we can definitely agree on the mindset and how having the right mindset will have the money flow. Literally, you will start to attract more money towards you because you're embodying that energy, and it literally just magnetizes in. So we're on the same page with that for sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of go back a little bit just based on, 2020, everything that's happened. You mentioned that there was a moment that you pivoted towards the platform and actually growing this following. Was that before 2020 happened, or was it in the beginning of 2020?
No, I had an Instagram account since 2013. And even though I was a digital marketer and had a great grasp on building websites, I wasn't a social media expert. I was an expert in the sense that I'm more of an expert than someone that doesn't know how to build websites, do graphics, write content, write copy, and buy ads. But I wasn't any expert in the true nature, the organic sense of it. And it's almost like you can't really be that until you are that. That's the kind of interesting thing. Is like getting to 1,000 followers is really hard. Getting to 2,000 followers is almost even harder. And it's like beyond that threshold, that's when it kind of really clicks. And no matter how hard I worked, I couldn't figure out how to get over 2,000. What I realized is I have to make content consistently, but what can I make content consistently about? And I started making videos because my folks and I invested in a spec house. We bulldozed the house and we built the house from scratch. And I was like, this is free content. Like I'm going to go over there every day and document the house being built and like make some jokes about it. As the house was being built, it was like every day at 5, every day at 5, every day at 5. And by the end of it, I had built up to about 400 views on my story, and I had like 15, maybe 1,200 or 1,300 followers. But I didn't know how to engage once the house was done and sold. I'm like, well, now what do I do? And I think in life, we sometimes pigeonhole ourselves because we think that it has to look a certain way in order for it to work, instead of us just doing what naturally flows to us. And I was trying to be like, what am I going to do? I was trying to have a grand plan, and the grand plans don't actually work in this atmosphere. The plans don't work. It's the true, authentic flow of it that actually works, which I learned the hard way. So I started making videos about political stuff just because that's what I was doing. That's what I was interested in. And I didn't even make that many of them, to be honest. I made about maybe 10 or so, and I just happened to make a really funny one on the very right day, at the very right time, with the very right subject matter, with jokes that I had kind of like developed in my year of doing the house. So it was like the preparation met the opportunity, and it was like a planetary alignment that it just so happened to be the day after the DNC, funny jokes and the right delivery that I had harnessed over doing the house for a year And it was just like the perfect alignment of things. And the first video hit August 20th of 2020. I had 1,200 followers. It had 60,000 views by the following day. And I was like, could I do it again? So I was like, I was feeling the pressure. I was walking the dog. I'm like, I gotta do another one. I have all this attention. I'm picking up followers. Can I make it happen again? So I made a second one, and that one took off just the same way. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna make one every day until the election, and we'll see what happens. And I don't know if I'm gonna make money, but I'm just gonna ride this because there's content. So I just was like every day, and it was just like 100 followers every day, cooking, hitting numbers and growing. And then it was like podcast opportunities. I was like, I'll fly. Where do you want to go? I'll fly there. I'll go to the podcast. Because I understand that the work ethic coupled with the preparation meeting the opportunity, coupled with the I don't have a boss, coupled with the I've been saving my cat, it was like all the things were there. It was like the stage was set. So I'm like, I'll give it everything I got for 4 months, and then we'll see what happens. And over that 4 months, I realized, like, this could really work. Let me go to the election. Oh, the election's unsolved? Well, let me go till the 6th. Oh, we got clapped. Oh, let me go till the 20th. Oh, Joe got in. Oh, now what? So I'm like, I was like, I got this forever now. Like, now I'll just cook until the end of time. Because I proved the model. I realized that my focus and attention allows me to do really great things. And if I focus on client work, it takes the magic away from what I'm doing. So I was like, I'm going to go all in. I'll take a hit to my income to invest the time into something that I believe has purpose, more macro impact, and ultimately, I think, a greater upside for the life that I want to live.
I want to try to summarize. I feel like you became aware that, the brand and the product is not what I'm focused on. It's me.
Yes.
People are following you and they want to know what you think, what's your perspective on what's happening around you. And that's when, once you made that switch, the flood just came in and it just became that much easier.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's like the authenticity is hard to fake. And
it's attractive. There's like a pull to the authenticity and the truth. And it feels good. Doesn't it feel good to just live like, oh man, people want to see me? Cool.
Yeah.
I'm just doing me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was talking to my folks on Easter, and they were like, how much are you able to make from this? Could you really make money from this? Such and such and such. And I'm like, well, after the 6 months, I see a path to where I could make the same amount of money as I made building websites. I'm not making millions of dollars. I'm not crushing it, but I can sustain. And I was like, I see the trajectory where this could take me to a better place. And I was like, but here's the thing. I used to stress out when I had a lot of projects. I would stress out when I had a slow month. I would stress out when a client would be on my back because it's the wrong color. It's not the right size. It's too big. It's too late. It's too soon. Can you have it done by Friday? Somebody doesn't pay me the full amount. So many things. And I'm like, it was stressing me out, and it was annoying. It was like drive to Miami to be in a meeting, to sit with some guy, to maybe sell him a website. I worked so hard to sell the site, and then I sell it to him for $6,000, but then I got a month of work to do. It's like it was this constant chasing. Whereas like now, it's like I wake up and like yell in my phone and like make jokes, and like my life is so much better. It's like I feel so much happier, and I feel like the true magic of what I'm able to bring to the table is finally in lock. And it's just like, I loved my life before because it's like I work from home, the dog's right here, like I'm in gym shorts every day. I walk in the sun, I could go kayaking at any time. Anyone wants to have me go, I fly wherever I want, anytime I want, and my money stays about the same. I work hard when I work hard. I work sometimes through the night, but like life is good. But now it's like even better because it's like, I see the real-time impact of what I'm doing. I get messages from people that say like, yo, this changed my life. This changed my day. This changed how I look at X. This changed my perspective on the world. When I built the best website I ever built in my life, nobody cared. It was like,
cool, you did your job.
Yeah. And like it had no impact. And I remember I talked with this woman one time that was like a spiritual author or something. And she's like, hey, not for nothing, I know you don't know me. She's just like, but you have like a far greater purpose than this. This is a step to your next spot. And I was like, trust me, I know. I just don't know where it's going to come from. And I always believe that, where it's like, as long as I keep brick by brick brick by brick, the opportunity will present itself. All I have to do is keep sharpening my edges, making sure I got all the tools, keep showing up, never giving up. And like the avenue will reveal itself through time. And as long as I'm continuing to prepare, the opportunity will unfold. And that is exactly as it happened. I couldn't have written it any better. It's just like, that's what's so awesome about it. But had I not thought that way, acted that way, had that work ethic, prepared in all those ways, spent all the time in the grind, spent time crying in my hands at my desk and thinking I'm a failure, I would have never been able to get to this point where I could really unlock that for other people. That's the authenticity. That's the value. That's why it's working. It's the only reason it's working, in my opinion.
You know, you've definitely come full circle of not only did you through that whole process heal yourself, but now you've become a healer just through your platform, through giving people your perspective. You're spreading laughter, you're spreading this high vibe emotion, and like you said, you get that feedback, and it's like it creates like a battery effect almost, where you're like, yeah, keep telling me because I'm going to do more.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful. I think that's amazing what you're doing.
Yeah, the recharge that comes from the recharge that comes from people is palpable, and those little messages, like one of my God, somebody just messaged me the other day that I hadn't talked to in a really long time. And off the top of my head, I can't even remember who it was, but they messaged me and they were like, "Yo," oh, now I remember who it was, and he's like, "Dude, this is like really making a difference." He's like, "This is changing the way that I think, the way that I pay attention." And he's like, I keep doing this." And on that particular day, I was like down about some stupid thing. And it's like, you know how we are. It's like life is a vibration. It's ebbs and flows. It's like you go up and you're down and you're down. And it's like that comment at that moment reinvigorated me. And it's not like I was going to lose it, but it's like I get those little things peppered in all the time. And little things too, like sometimes I wake up and like somebody Venmos me $5 and they're like, "Thanks," or like $1. And I'm like, that's sick. Like no one ever did that when I was building.
Here's a cup of coffee because you're amazing. Yeah.
It was like, that has been to me one of the most amazing things is like people just donate to me. And it's like, I'm so thankful for it. And it's like, I would have never in a million years even thought that somebody would even want to do that. But again, it's just like they get value, and that's how value works. That's how the free market works. It's like what I've given you is more valuable than the $5, and then the $5 seems like a bargain. So it's like people just doing that, and the people that are so amazing that they just do that to me, it's like they don't even understand the significance of how that enables me to create more, and how that simple injection of small bits of cash not only has a social component, but it also has a motivational component. But it literally says, well, instead of me taking that little job for $500, now I have $25. Okay, well, that's not zero. And it's like, and there was this really smart internet guy that I used to follow way back in the day that always said, he was like, "I don't care how much a website makes as long as it's not zero, even if it's $1, because I can multiply one and I can grow it to something higher. You can't multiply zero by any number and get anything." He's like, even if it's one, it can be multiplied, and you can figure out how to grow that multiplication. And that's the thing that I see in this is like, if I can get $5 with 40,000 followers, I could get $10 with 80,000 followers. I could get 20, you know what I mean? And it's just like, that's a type of thing where it's like, I see a sustenance for a lifetime that could come from that. Beyond the fact that it has so much fun, it has so much purpose, and like all of the things. It's like you have to focus on finances, otherwise you're screwed. It's like you have to make sure that you're taken care of. But those little things and those people, even people that are right in this live, like Anna Maria in this live, she's on like every single live. She like buys merch in my store, sends me Venmos and donates to me and comments all the time. It's like, this woman is amazing. I never met her in my life, and she's constantly bombarding me with love. And it's like, she feels that I'm really giving her objective value. And it's like people like her and many others that feed this whole machine, and it's why more of this stuff exists in the world, because people realize that their time, attention, and where they invest their cash changes the world. That's $1 at a time.
It's that energetic exchange, and like I said, like the battery effect. Like there really is this reverberation that happens, and being aware of that, I think, is key to this whole thing, and just knowing how does this impact me? What is happening in my body now that I've heard this? And then, oh, well, since I got that, here's something in return.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Just a quick question. I've been curious, and I saw somebody actually ask that. Take naps.
Yeah.
What is that?
So I've been buying domain names for a long time, since I was like, I think when I was 14, I bought my first domain name, and I loved spelling. I was like a spelling bee type champion type person, always really good at spelling. So I love being like a linguist. I love words. I've always loved words. So when I buy websites, if I was to buy sneakers.com or something, or like red sneakers, basketballshoes.com, it was always so like it wasn't fun. I didn't like how it was so bland and one-dimensional. It wasn't like a brandable, we call it in the domain name world. I really like domain names that had actions, like this, that, or take naps. So I always bought domain names that were based around actions. So when I went to go pick my my Instagram name, I wanted to pick a name that had something to do with an action. And I was like, naps are luxurious. That's a cool 4-letter word, easy to spell, which I knew from my domain name life. So I'm like, what could it be around naps? I love naps, go nap, we nap. And then I saw take naps was available. I was like, 2 syllables, 8 letters, easy to spell, universally understandable, action word. Go with it. That was why. It was like as simple as that.
I love that. I think it just plays back into your personality of not looking at just the surface, but really going in depth into something and taking the meat out of it. So that's another layer that is important, especially as an entrepreneur, to recognize, because then it resonates. When you look at the depth of things, it resonates much deeper with people than just, the surface stuff, for sure.
Yeah, the deep analysis of things and really picking things apart is one of my greatest strengths, and also sometimes one of my struggles, because it's like I pick everything apart, and as a result, certain things sometimes don't need to be certain, like social situations, for example, but like in business and in life, my analysis is extremely deep. Like when I pick a new car, I bought a car that has 2 sunroofs, and I literally looked up, do you spend more money on gas by having glass there versus just a normal roof? Like I was that deep in the analysis of this car, whereas most people would be like, I like that car. It's a kind of a cool car. I'm about to buy that car. That depth, it's like a gift and a curse, but it's ultimately been key to a lot of the different elements of success, because my analysis is why I'm very satisfied with things for the long term, whereas some other people that kind of are more impulsive with their decisions, they end up having to move in 5 years or change in 3 years. I want a new car, I want a new house, I want a new neighborhood, whereas I've looked at every possible thing imaginable about where that house is situated. So in theory, I could live there till I die. That's how I am about everything that I do, and it's been a great advantage.
So question, and we can probably focus on this for a bit until the end. Have you had any experience, because like I said earlier, you have a gift at triggering people. You have a gift, period, but definitely in making jokes and making videos that will trigger people. I mean, I've reposted a few of your things, or the person was like, oh, this guy is, why is he saying it that way? Is he racist? Just asking different things about you. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? So have you had any experience with cancel culture, with hate, and not I don't want to say hate speech, but more like bullying online?
Yeah, I will say this: I'd say 98 to 99% of every interaction that I've had has been positive, which I never anticipated. So it's been overwhelmingly good, and I don't even want to I wouldn't even focus on it. But yeah, there have been challenges that come with, we're all human, right? And it's like, if people are talking shit about you, you don't want to hear that, no matter what. But the reality is as the awareness to the account grows, as more and more people know about it, inevitably more and more shots are going to come. What I usually feel like is, shots come from below, not from above. People that are doing better than you aren't firing at you. Oftentimes it's a call to attention that will raise their stock. That is why people initiate those types of problems. On the other side of it, when people like slide in my DM and they're not trying to like grow their account or build clout by insulting me publicly or whatever, they just want to tell me I'm a piece of shit. Those people, I feel like, are struggling with their own internal battles that cause them to lash out at me. And like, even though my responses in the DMs are not always perfect, sometimes I'm like, you know what, man, like maybe you wish you were me, and I'll just block them. It's like I probably shouldn't have even said that. You know, I should have just been like, you know what, man, like, sorry you're having a bad day. So I'm trying to get better at that as I learn my way through this process. But I generally feel like what we say and do is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And oftentimes that lashing out is because of some other issue. And in fact, one day this guy slid in my DM and was telling me I'm X, Y, and Z and calling me names and whatnot. And I was like, dude, I was like, I'm sorry that you are having a bad day, guy. Like, I don't even know what to tell you, but like, I love you. Like, if you ever need someone to talk to, like, I don't know, like, let me know. And I was kind of trolling him a little bit, but I didn't feed back. I didn't hit the feedback to look like you're an ugly fucking chooch. You know, I didn't do that. The next morning or next day, he messaged me and he's like, yo, I had a couple drinks last night and I was pissed off and I was like just firing it off. And I'm like, you see, there it is. It's like, these people don't even care about me. They're just mad and they want somebody to validate that anger by having a response. Like, you're going to say, and then we want to be entangled because it distracts us from the problems that are happening and collapsing around us. So I generally feel like I try not to feed back into that. And as time goes on, I'm realizing that I need to be more emotionally mature if I'm going to elevate myself to another level. Because as the account continues to grow, it's like people are looking for you to set an example of how to behave. And one thing that really pisses me off about like LeBron James, for example, is like this guy's a sore loser. It's like the guy loses a basketball game and he like storms off the court. And it's like young, impressionable children that look up to you are saying you be a sore loser. And when I grew up, it was like if we lost the soccer game by 10 goals, you go after the game and you shake everybody's hand. You might have a scowl on your face. You might have your head down. You might hate them, but you slap everybody's hand. You be a good sport. And I think that that's something that's lost when people that a lot of people look up to act a certain type of way. So I realized that like if I'm going to be a thought leader, which I want to be, which I'm trying to be, which I believe that I am in my own little way, I have to be an action leader, I have to be a behavior leader, I have to be an emotional leader, and I have to be a person that embodies what is the right thing. And I'm not perfect, I'm getting better at it every day, but that's something that I'm very cognizant of because it's like people see you and they see what you say, they see what you do, they see where you go, they see how you interact. And as much as people generally believe sometimes that people are so dumb, people are incredibly perceptive, and I think that the vast majority of people are actually smarter than we think. They're just, I like to say, it's like their diamond is polished on different facets than others. It's like I may not be able to spell the right word, but I may have an emotional IQ that is far beyond other people. And that's where like I know where I'm strong, but I also know where I'm weak. And when I see somebody that has the other pieces that I'm missing, it always lights me up because I'm like, I may be able to know XYZ about finances, banking, the economy, but this person has an emotional IQ that exceeds mine. I need to learn from them, and I need to adapt to be around them more so I can sharpen that tool in my arsenal as well. So that's something that I think about every day, and I try to get sharper at.
Wow, that was an amazing answer to my question because, you know, I feel like entertainment, you know, comedy, it really does have a huge impact in society and how we perceive reality. And you having that awareness and willingness to work on yourself really is going to bring you to the next level with your work, because you're going to be able to fine tune those deliveries and the subtleties to really like, you know, hone in and get them where they're least aware. So good for you for being able to balance out, you know, your intellect with your emotions. I mean, that's amazing.
It's an ongoing project. I don't want to act like
Always a
I've,
student. Always a
yeah,
student.
exactly. I don't want to act like I've mastered it, but that's something where it's just like that, and that's yet another reason why I've been loving this experience. Because when I built a website, it's like I'm the best at building websites. I do a really great job. I'm sharp. I hit it. Like I am always executing. But I didn't like learn that much about life. I learned about how to be good in this craft. Whereas in this respect, this is like life mastery, a lot more than instrumental mastery of a specific task. And one of the things that was so frustrating about web development is that web development knowledge moves like a freight train and it's constantly evolving. If you build a website the same way for 5 years, you're behind. And there's a lot of web developers like they find their spot and they stick there almost forever. And they can monetize it and they can live a great life, but that no one wants to change. Whereas with this, I'm forced to adapt to the world. I'm forced to be better just simply because it's a prerequisite of growing the account. It's a prerequisite of people looking up to it. If I put out the same caliber of content that I did 60 days ago, people will be like, this is stale. So it's like you're forced to elevate. And I've talked about it a lot on my lives, but like I always thought I'd smoke weed for like the rest of my life. I was like, I love weed. It's great. Like weed, like I was rolling blunts. When I stopped smoking weed, it allowed me to move to another speed that I never would have been aware of. And the sharpness and acute awareness of every single thing that's happening emotionally, mentally, and in the world around me allows me to move in one day 25 hours instead of 24. And that extra hour allows me to advance faster through. Whereas like my answers get sharper, the content gets more targeted. It's like the responses hit. Like this is one of the best, you know what I mean, deliveries I've ever had because I'm like on it. And it will continue to elevate in that way because I'm not taking steps back. And as much as I loved weed and the creative like blossom of it, what I didn't realize is that the real drug is awareness and the real drug is the sharpness of mind. And I never was able to execute as quickly and with this degree of efficiency ever when I was smoking weed because it would always kick me down 10 points and I didn't even realize it. And the thing that's so crazy about weed is that it's so convincing that you don't even realize that you're down 10 points. And you can't even imagine what it's like to be up that 10 points because you're constantly kicking yourself back down under the guise of this is what I need. And you blame what happens externally and you're like, well, I can solve it with this as opposed to solving it with this. And that's the thing that's so amazing about it. And so I keep preaching that because I thought I'd be smoking a joint the rest of my life. Doesn't mean that I won't smoke a joint. It just means that I tried to make it not a daily habit and it changed my life.
Dude, I can totally relate with you. I started smoking when I was 28, so I was very late in my trying it. But I smoked it every single day,
Yeah.
throughout the day. Especially for me specifically, because I was in the crypto industry. I haven't worked a 9 to 5 in about 7 or 8 years now because I just got into the crypto space and I didn't need to.
Yeah.
But I see what I agree with what you're saying. I've done a lot of plant medicine just to be able to help me purge and take a lot of that stuff out of my body. But this shaman, he told me one time, he's like, be careful with marijuana because it'll support you and it'll give you what you need for a while, but then at one point it's gonna turn on you, and you won't realize it'll turn on you, and then it'll start, instead of being constructive, it'll be destructive. Yeah. And that's why it's like I'm agreeing with you. Like I'm not gonna not smoke weed ever again. But now I have this awareness of like, okay, for me specifically, I got to that point where I needed to stop and focus, and get that awareness and get that consciousness expansion feeling, which is like, to me, exactly. It's way more thrilling now to be in that fine tune edge, bleeding edge than just being kind of in this, like, I'm just living my life and just kind of, it's great. You get that creativity, but you're 10 steps below where you could be.
Yep. Yeah. It trips you up. It
Yeah.
trips you up without you even knowing. And it's like, even if you lose 1% of the capacity,
I mean,
it's
now
like,
that I know what I'm capable of, I'm like, nah, man, I can't go back down. I
no,
want to go
exactly.
forward. Yeah.
Exactly. The thing that's really that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about lately is like the same way that I thought about weed, where I was just like, all right, let's weigh the pros and cons of weed, and I'm like, I'll have more money. I'm inhaling smoke. That can't be good. What would I have
Yeah.
with that? What would I have with that extra time? What would I have that extra with that extra mental capacity? And it was just like, is this good? Is this bad? And I remember just like kind of looking at it that way. The thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately, which is like bothered me because I still haven't defeated it, is like alcohol. Like alcohol, quite purely and simply, is poison. It is
Yeah.
full of calories no matter what you drink. It ruins your ability to do certain things, and you use it like as a crutch. It's like, oh, I'm going to a party, I need. So it's like, again, it's like alcohol, like many things, is like a mental deficiency, in my opinion, of like incapability of reaching peak performance in whatever setting. It's just like, I can't without X. So now you're like dismissing responsibility for you to handle your shit to some other thing. And like, hey, like I drank a couple beers on Easter. It's like I went to a party on Saturday. It's like I had a few drinks there. And generally speaking, like my life is fine. But it's just like, imagine if you could harness that. Imagine if you could be in that same environment and be like, nah. Imagine how better you'd feel in the morning. Imagine how hard you'd go in the gym the next morning versus not. It's like, imagine if you didn't have a pizza, but instead you were aware enough that you're like, like I'll wait till tomorrow. I'll have a cold cup of soup. Stupid things like that accrue over time. And I think that that mental toughness, that discipline is like the key to just unlocking so many other things. And so it's like now I've got my kind of like my targets set where like sometimes if I had a tough day or whatever, I'd be like, let me bomb like a glass of wine. It's a glass of wine. Who cares? But now I'm just like, do I need the glass of wine? Like, do I need 137 calories of wine right now? You know? And it's like when I go to the elliptical and I see it burn, 998 calories or whatever for the day, I'm like, all right, it's like I got 1,000 calories. Do I really want to squander, the first 15 minutes of this exercise on this glass of wine? And if I have one, I'm going to have two. Oh, and then the bottle's open. It's going to go bad in 3 days. I might as well just have three. Let me just finish it. It's like that. And like before you know it, you're down the thing. And then you're sloppy. Then it's like, oh, I want to get on a live stream. Oh, I don't want to be slurring. I don't want to not be sharp. I don't want to post a video of me drunk. It's like, it snowballs. And it's just like, that's the thing about life is complete control and mastery over each interaction moment to moment is like, in my opinion, how people excel at the highest levels of life. And to me, I try to think it's like, if I was the greatest thing I could ever be ever, would I do that? And that's kind of how I try to rationalize each individual decision, even about little things like a glass of wine. Even though you better believe if I go out to dinner on Friday, I'll have one. I try to think about, what if I didn't? And what would it look like if I didn't? Would I have a tea? Could I still have the same fun? And just trying to figure out how to master that is something I've been thinking about lately.
I love that. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, it's intention. What's your intention behind these actions?
Yeah.
If you're just doing the actions because it feels familiar, right? Because you're just like, this is what I've always done. I'm going to do it again. And it just feels right.
Yeah.
Then you're probably doing it for destructive reasons, right?
Yep.
And one thing I've learned in my own journey is to not compare to other people.
Yeah.
Everybody's in their own journey. Everybody has their own things. Health-wise, like on the physical level, on an emotional level, everybody has different, traumas and upbringings that they've gone through. So always compare yourself to yourself, to your previous self,
Yep.
and then grow off of that. But yeah, I'm in agreement. It really is about awareness, just being aware. Like,
Yeah.
why? Why is this happening? Why do I love this? Why do I hate this? Why do I react this way?
And
That's the goal.
your ability to stay on top of that moment to moment is predicated
Whatever
on
you
that focus.
practice daily, you become a master at.
Exactly. That focus. And my high school football coach, every day you get better at something or you get worse at it, you never stay the same. Said that to me in high school, it sticks with me to this day. I'll remember it till the day I die. And I always think about that. It's like, did I go to the gym today? Did I do the right thing today? Was I thinking the right things today? And it's like, we all stumble. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. But staying sharper and more aware of that consistently over time, you're only bound to get better. And as long as I'm better than I was last week, I feel like I'm winning. And it's not always the case, but it certainly is more of a focus when you're not saying, well, I need X, well, it's blank, or well, I'm such, or well, I'm sad today, or whatever is the case. And then what really gets you is when you get sick. Is like you get the flu, or you have a cold, or I tore my meniscus, I needed knee surgery, and the whole time I'm like, I want to go, I want to walk, I want to go on the treadmill, I want to do all these things. So that was kind of when I realized that health must be a priority. And the older that we get, even though I wouldn't consider myself to be objectively very old, awareness to that going forward is key. It's like, how's this going to bang my joints? How's this going to affect my spine? Did I stretch? I mean, there's so many things, because no matter how great you are at all those other things, I think there's some quote. It's something like, it's like a rich man wants many things. A sick man wants only one thing: to be healthy. And it's like, great. So I think about that a lot, and especially as it relates to things like pot. I'm like, because I used to smoke blunts. I'm rolling a blunt and smoke. Okay, well, smoke a joint. Okay, there's paper. Okay, it's still smoke and seeds. It's still smoke. I mean, there's any variety of things. Even if you're smoking a bowl, it's a lighter. Oh, I use a string. Well, it's still not good. It's still smoke in your face. I mean, there's so many things like that awareness to and trying to improve on, I think, is just so key.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with all that. That's a whole difference. That's a whole subject we can talk about. There's something I usually say around, like, people that are in the hospital. My girlfriend's an RN, and she's always around people that are sick and, in the hospital beds. And she would always say to me, they're here because of their lifestyle, because of the choices they made in their lifestyle that brought them to this point. So you get family members coming in, there's like, no, you got to live longer. You got to be here for me. And it's like, no, man, he put himself there. As triggering as that phrase is, you ended up in that place based on the choices you made. And at the end of the day, that's why the intention is so important. And that curiosity of, like, why am I doing this? That'll help you shift away from just the habitual patterns and going towards that road unaware.
Yep. Yeah, you have to do your best to control what you can control. That statement comes in handy for all aspects of life, and that is yet another perfect example. Do the best that you can to control what you can control. Stay focused on the things that are going to move the needle forward. Keep plugging away. Don't give up. Stay consistent. And great things happen. And they happen because you're making them happen. They don't just happen. You're making them happen through your disposition to life, your perspective on certain things, how you handle each hurdle when it comes at you, because you're going to get them. Rocks are going to get thrown your way. The question is can you dodge them? Can you block them? Or are you going to find a path that doesn't have as many? But as long as you're aware, then your ability to spot and overcome those tasks and overcome those hurdles is much easier. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Tony Horton, the guy from P90X. And he said, excuses are self-imposed obstacles that prevent you from having a better life. And I try to think about that a lot, where I'm just like, is this an excuse? Am I just creating an obstacle to prevent myself from having a better life? Like, sometimes it'll be 9:30, my gym closes at 11. And I'm like, I can't go now. It's going to be 20 minutes. Like, yeah. And then when you come back at 11 after getting in a good sweat, you're so thankful that you did it. And It's like, these are all lessons. All of these things translate to really all aspects of life.
Bobby, this was like inspiring. I thought it was going to be like just funny stuff, but no, man, you're deep. You go deep, and that's what I love about you. That's what I love about your that's a gift, is being able to talk in that perspective with that depth in the conversation. Is there something you want to leave everyone with, like a piece of advice based on everything that's happening, and maybe a plug?
Sure. I would say controlling the inputs of what comes into your brain is one of the greatest tools that we have, is controlling the inputs. controlling what happens when you bring energy and when you bring information into your mind and how you react to it, and trying to focus on the greatest things that will happen, trying to focus on only the good and be aware of all the obstacles, but focus on the good. Measuring those inputs and auditing the information that you choose to bring into your mind has been key, because mental discipline is the game. Every battle is won and lost in your mind first. And any of us can reach the greatest heights that we could ever imagine, probably even far beyond them, if we can figure out how to dominate, as Andy Frisella says, your inner bitch voice. If we can figure out how to control our mind and our thoughts and apply them to elevating ourselves to the next level, you always win. You can't lose. As long as you're doing that, it's like it's only a matter of time before it works out in your favor. So that would be my parting message.
Love it. Invest in yourself. Can't lose.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Bobby, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate your time, your energy, your literally your energy. I mean, it's palpable, and I'm ready to go on a run now. So I appreciate that.
I love it. No, I enjoyed it very much, man. Thank you so much. The questions were awesome. I appreciate you so much, and thank you. I look forward to posting this on my YouTube and on my Facebook after you put it up. I assume you'll put it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up, and then I'll download it and send it to you via WeTransfer or something, just to get it quickly
Awesome.
to you.
Hey man, it was so nice to meet you. Hope to interact again soon. Let's do this again sometime. This was fun.
Absolutely. I definitely have so many other questions that I'm like, as we were talking, I'm like, oh man, I would love to, but we're going in such a good direction. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Well,
so we'll definitely reconnect.
Yeah, we'll plan one. Maybe we'll plan one for 2 weeks. We jump on again. I think a lot of people got some value from this, so I'm for it, man.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Thanks for your time. You too, man.